Sports fans, PB&Z Sports Chaos. Look who's back. PB's back with us. Little sabbatical up in Orlando last week. You got a little Tropical Bay going on again this week?
Yeah, let's get the Tropical Bay IPA, Biscayne Bay Brewing in Miami. It's a good one, 6.0, so it's not too heavy. It's a nice pre-game for the Patriots beer, that's for sure.
Nice. I have a little thing from Worcester, Mass, the Wormtown Brewery. We've had them a bunch of times when you were up here locally with us, PB. They have something from another big icon in Worcester, Table Talk. They put together a pumpkin pie beer. I've never had it. I bought that my first sip.
Oh, wow. Good seasonal. Nice.
That's actually not bad. Sometimes pumpkin beers are a little too sweet. That's not bad.
Good.
All right. Hey, we're past the midway point in the NFL season. Week 10 completed last week, right? Now everybody has gone over. They can no longer be less than 500 or above 500. They have to be one or the other, apparently, at this point in time. We'll talk about that momentarily. And we're going to give you, now that we're past that point, PB will give you his A list of the top 5 teams, and I'll give you the Z list, the bottom cellar dwellers of the NFL. First of all, I got to give a shout out. Last night, some MLB awards were given out. They've been given out all week. Tonight, the MVP will be announced. I think it might be announced right now. Last night was Cy Young Award winners. And PB, Robbie Ray of Toronto, and not actor Corbin Burnson, but Corbin Burns of Milwaukee Brewers ended up winning the Cy Young award. The days of having guys winning 19, 20 games are gone. I mean, one of these guys won 11, the other guy won 13. They were both starters. They weren't relievers. Are we done seeing epic score stats anymore? 20 wins, 300 Ks?
Yeah. I think in the past, they left pitchers in just to get through those 5 innings. They didn't really get into the sabermetrics as heavily as they do today. The big thing in starting pitching, as we know, is that third time through the rotation. So they try to avoid going through, through the lineup. Avoid that third time through the lineup. So that only gets pitches into the 4th inning usually, and then they start to pull them. So you have a lot of these good starters getting pulled after 4 2/3. And that keeps them fresh too. That keeps their arm young and fresh, so that when they start again 5 days later, they're in a better position to take that team through a scoreless, potentially first 4 or 5 innings. So,
well, to that point, neither one of those guys went 200 innings. One went 184. The other one went like 173, I think it was. So
yeah. So those days are over.
Does that mean that middle relievers and all relievers, for that point, should be considered for the Cy Young going forward?
I mean, if the trend continues, then why not?
Yeah. Hey, by the way, MVP, as I just mentioned a minute ago, will be announced very shortly. If it hasn't, actually, now it is. Bryce Harper won it for the NL. I didn't see the AL yet. But PB, a little historic thing is going on tonight with this MVP award. It'll be the first time since 1987 that the 2 winners came from teams who did not make the playoffs.
Interesting.
Now, back in 87, there was only 4 teams, right? You had the NL West, you had the NL East, you had the AL West, you had the AL East. Now there's 5 teams in each league going to the playoffs. I can't believe you can't get an MVP winner out of 5 teams from each league.
I know, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Man, all right. Hey, college football rankings came out the other night. Top 4 teams stayed the same, but an interesting thing happened in the middle of this thing. Michigan State, who beat Michigan in a great game 2 weeks ago. We were tweeting, texting back and forth during that game. That was a great game. Michigan State then lost the following week. They have now fallen behind Michigan. But my Kyrie Award winner this week, Gary Barta from the CFP Playoffs Committee Chairman, said, head-to-head competition will matter all year long. What? If that's the case, how does Michigan State fall behind Michigan?
Yeah, I mean, you could. Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting argument. I mean, it's the college football playoff system is flawed. Let's just face it.
It has. I mean, by the way, it helped form a little bit. Oregon is still holding on by a slight hair over Ohio State, and they should, because they went to Ohio State and they beat them. But now everybody goes, "Wow, that was like 7 weeks ago. It doesn't really matter." What? They won the game, right?
Exactly.
Oh, man. All right. We're going to do a little college football picks here. There was Not much chaos last week other than my OU team. They lost to Baylor. But hang on one second, because the Big 12 is the only conference where you can get a rematch. You know why? There is no divisions. There's no East, there's no West, there's no North, there's no South, there's no Coastal, there's no Atlantic. 1 and 2 get to play again if they're still 1 and 2 in the championship. So we'll see what happens there. Hey, by the way, there was a big college rivalry game down in your neck of the woods last week. It's not the same as it used to be in the 80s and 90s. You know what I'm talking about, right? Miami, Florida State took place last week.
Yeah.
Florida State pulled out a pretty good game. I watched that game. You know what? I was flipping back and forth between that and one of the ranked games, and the Miami Florida State game was much better. It came down to the last play of the game where Florida State ran a rugby play to score a touchdown and win. So we'll see. PB, another thing I'm concerned about college football before we get to the NFL. What is up with all these firings? We've had 12 firings now. Florida International down your neck of the woods fired Butch Davis this past week. That's 12 firings so far, or dismissals, because some of them were resignations, like forced resignations.
Forced resignation, yeah.
Are you a little concerned about the way college football is going? Is it because of the fact that there's only like 7 good teams and everybody else is going to be chasing them forever?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really can't put my finger on that one. It's just.
Hey, but what about this? Jim Moore, remember him, right? Coached the Saints for a number of years. Went and coached UCLA for a few years. He's back. You know where he's back at?
What?
That football mecca, UConn.
Oh.
All right, let's get into some college foreplay. Hey, PB, last week you forgot to text us your picks, so we picked for you. You actually did all right. You went 2 and 2.
Oh, thanks. All right.
You tied with G Money at 2 and 2. By the way, somebody went 1 and 3, but that's okay. But I did not pick OU. I did pick Baylor to cover the spread. All right, this week, let's get in it. We're going to start right out with the OU game. They play Iowa State at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a 4.5-point favorite. Who do you like there?
I'm going to take the points with Oklahoma State on that one. I mean, with Iowa State.
Iowa State, all right.
Yep. Taking the points. Give me 4.5. That line's already come down a little bit, so the money's coming in on Iowa State.
Yes, it is. Yeah. By the way, G Money as well says Iowa State. So good luck on that one. All right. Oregon, number 3, holding on by a slim thread over Ohio State. Please, Oregon. I don't want to see the pukes from Ohio State get there. They go out to Utah. That's a tough game in Utah. Utes play tough at home. Oregon is a 3-point favorite. Who do you like?
Yeah. I mean, if Oregon wants any shot at the CFP, they have to win this game. Their schedule wasn't that tough throughout the year. I don't know if they've even played a ranked opponent.
Who, Oregon or Utah?
They played Ohio State, right?
They beat them.
Yeah. And this could be one of those games. I mean, it seems like every time a team creeps up into that 3 spot, they lose. like Michigan State was a couple of weeks ago, and there was Oklahoma was up there for a bit, and they lost. I feel like there's teams that get there and for a week or two, and then they lose a game. And this is, you're right, it's going to be a tough game, but they're also fighting for their playoff lives. So I'm going to lay the 3 and still take Oregon in this one. And part of it is for the reason of, I'd love to see Ohio State fall out of that equation.
Me as well. I got Oregon. G Money says Utah in that game. All right. By the way, Anthony Brown is the quarterback for Utah, played for BC. By the way, we're going to pick BC in a moment. But let's talk about the ACC, because Wake Forest, who is leading the ACC right now, goes to Clemson. Clemson, by the way, has a slight chance to still win the ACC title. They can't obviously get in the playoffs to get 3 losses. But they are a 4.5-point favorite at home. Who do you like in that? Wake Forest is playing very well, but who do you like?
I know. And the thing that's interesting about Wake Forest is, had they beaten North Carolina a couple weeks ago and was sitting undefeated right now and run the table by beating Clemson and BC, the last game of the year, they would probably be in the college football playoff.
That's a very good point.
They probably would be. But I don't, and think about it, the 3-point loss was a crazy game, right? 55-52 or something like that. So they're that close to a CFP, but the reality is, even if they do run the table at this point, they're probably not going to get in. So they're not really playing for much. I can't see Clemson losing 4 games in a season, man. That just seems like it hasn't happened in a decade. So, but the 4.5 points is tempting to take. So I'm going to take the points with Wake Forest.
Woo,
I'm
okay.
going to hope Clemson wins the game. I'm not going to hope they win the game, but I think Clemson can win this game by like a field goal, and there's a chance Wake Forest could win it. So I'm going to take Wake Forest with the points.
All right, that's not a bad pick. I'm taking Clemson. G Money did as well. We'll see what happens here. I think this is the game that DJ, I can't even pronounce his last name, Uliagali or whatever, finally explodes. We'll see. All right, the last game we're going to pick, only because it's local and I have some interest in it because I'm going to the game on Saturday. FSU comes up here to ice cold Chestnut Hill. It'll be 42 degrees at kickoff time. What do you think? BC's favorite 1.5. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think that's a lot of points to lay. I mean, it's basically a pick 'em. I'm going to take the home team, the Eagles here. And
nice. All right. All right. Hey,
you are too?
yes.
All right. So
let's
let's
get the NFL. Some big story.
Before we get to the NFL, just one quick thing. We didn't put the Michigan State, Ohio State on the list this week because the spread's 19 or whatever, which is understandable. But Ohio State's got to run the table to get in the CFP. Do you agree? If they lose either the Michigan State game or the Michigan game, they're probably not going to get in. And Michigan will probably get in if they run the table.
So that's a good point. G Money and I talked about this. First of all, there's no Big Ten team that should get in with 2 losses. Do you agree?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's.
And each one of them are at a threat to lose 2 games, no matter what, at this point in time. So I'm with you. I mean, Ohio State needs to win this game big time. I can't believe the spread is that big.
I know. That's a big spread.
I don't know why Vegas is so high on Ohio State. They got beat at home by Oregon. Are you forgetting Vegas? Come on. Right?
Well, okay. I got it. Now, what about this one other question? So what happens if, because Georgia's in, even if they lose the SEC championship game, Georgia's still in, because there'll be a 1-loss team at that point. If Bama could beat them, right? Assuming it's going to be Bama and them. So what happens if Georgia beats Bama in the SEC championship in overtime or by a field goal? Does Bama get in as a 2-loss team?
You know, another discussion we had, I hate to see it. I think that the CFP committee has a lot of prejudice towards the SEC, which is why a lot of coaches are getting fired right now because they're not in the SEC, or if they are, like Ed O, they shouldn't get in, but it depends about what happens downstream, right? If you have 2-loss teams everywhere, then yeah, Alabama probably gets in. By the way, if Cincinnati runs the table and anybody's got 2 losses, it's got to be Cincinnati. Do you agree?
No, I don't. Well, I agree. Yes, I agree that that's what should happen, but I don't think that's what will happen.
Ooh, okay. Cincinnati, by the way, when we're not picking this game, they have a pretty tough game. It's a 12-point. That's why we didn't pick 11.5 now. They're playing SMU, who was ranked earlier, and then they lost the game. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah. Okay.
At the end of the day, I think if you got 2 losses and there's a team out there that's undefeated who beat a pretty good school. By the way, Notre Dame is lurking, but believe it or not, Notre Dame could have lost the game to Cincinnati, run the table, get 2 losses all around. They could still leapfrog Cincinnati, which would be absolutely crazy, right?
That could happen. Yeah.
Man.
All right. Let's go on the NFL.
Let's get into NFL. Hey, we had some storylines last week. I got a little DYK for you. First of all, you're going to like this one. Which team in the NFL has led every single game they've been in this year by 7 points or more at one point in time?
Wow. 2 teams that obviously have.
Just one team has done it. They've led every game at one point in time by 7 points.
Man, is it?
By the way, when I heard it, I picked it right away.
Is it the Patriots?
No. Minnesota Vikings. Your team to win the NFC North.
Wow. Okay. Interesting. Wow.
Look how many games they lost in the field goal at the end, right? Or won a game in a field goal, right? So we'll see.
I know.
Hey, by the way, big news just came out tonight. AB apparently got by with a fake COVID card. What do you think about that?
Man, That should almost make the Kyrie award.
I know it. It came out too late. Or else I want to hear whether or not it's been validated. We'll see. All right. Hey, last week Cam Newton shocked the world. Came out of back from the dead, scored 2 touchdowns. Carolina pulls up one of the biggest upsets ever, beating the Cards. By the way, G Money had it as his best bet of the week. Good for him. What's the deal? We're going to pick this game momentarily. They're playing Washington against his former coach.
Yeah, I wouldn't get too excited about it. I wouldn't get too excited about it. I'm not sold on Carolina. I'm not. I mean, Kyler Murray's been out. Arizona's going to be fine, and Carolina's going to suck. I mean, that's just the way it's going to happen.
Okay. Hey, by the way, the other big thing last week, Detroit guaranteed that we will not have the first 0-17 team in history.
Right. They were a previous 0-16 team, though, the Lions were. But now that we have a 17-game schedule,
on the flip side of that, they tied Pittsburgh, which means we still may have a 500 team after all, even though we have an uneven schedule.
Yes. Right? Yeah. And that's actually not.
Mike Tomlin can keep his streak together. He could still go 500 or better this year. Wow, we'll see. All right. So you get your Mac Jones shirt on. I got to talk about this one. Pats absolutely crushed Cleveland. By the way, you picked Cleveland last week. 45-7. The game was not even as close as that sounds, which does not sound close at all. They're now 6-4. Are these guys the real deal right now? I mean, there's a lot of talk on all the gossip shows that they're going to be a Super Bowl contender.
Yeah, they're actually second in the NFL, only behind the Buffalo Bills in point differential. They're plus 98. They're tied with Arizona, and who's in the NFC at plus 98 also. But this team is they're playing good football, and a lot of it goes back to Belichick and the quarterback. I mean, it's Mac Jones is playing great. Belichick is coaching him up.
Right.
They have a Pro Bowl supporting cast of players around them and with their backs and with their receivers. But that's how they were with Brady. This team reminds me of a team that beat the Rams the first time Brady won a Super Bowl. They get a great defense. They have a decent offense that can just play solid football. They make good decisions. So, yeah, I'm sold. I'm sold on them. I take everything back I said about them not being able to make the playoffs this year. I think they can make the playoffs this year now.
By the way, one of the two of us had them going 11-6 and making the playoffs.
Yeah, well, that's not far off.
All right. Hey, is he the rookie of the year right now? Your man, the shirt you're wearing?
Yeah, offensive rookie of the year. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Let's talk, because past the midway point, like we just said, what is your A-list? Who are the top 5 teams? And don't pull Stephen A. Smith on us. Give us real contenders.
Yeah, I am going to give you real contenders on this one. My top 5 list, and I'll tell you, I was so tempted to put New England into this top 5. I saw someone this morning. It might have been D. Woody that put the Patriots at 5, but there was one of the guys on ESPN that put
it
him at
5.
Yeah, and I was so tempted to put him there, but I can't just yet. As much as I like them, as well as they're playing, I just can't put them there yet. So they're like one of those bubble teams for me right now.
I agree.
Yeah. So at number 5, I have the Los Angeles Rams. And, despite the fact they have 3 losses, I still think they're a powerhouse team. They have even although Woods has gone down, they did pick up OBJ. They have great offensive weapons. That their defense is great. They picked up Von Miller. I mean, this team to me would be one of the scariest teams to play in the playoffs. So I got them at 5. Number 14 for me right now is the Buffalo Bills. Another team that also has 3 losses, but I really am shaking my head about that whole 9-6 loss in Jacksonville. Don't know what happened with that game, but I am, looking at last week and they just annihilated the Jets, right? So this team bounced right back. There's been teams this year that have used weird losses to as a slap on the face, just like the Cowboys have done, right? They lost that game to Denver and then they just go and annihilated the Falcons. So I think that was a wake-up call for Buffalo. I still think they're a solid team. I still think they're probably the favorite to win the AFC. So I'm going Buffalo number 4.
Okay.
All my other teams are in the NFC. So number 3, Arizona Cardinals. I know they lost to Carolina. Kyler Murray's been out, but this team is still a really good team, right? We saw them actually beat the Rams earlier in this year. So I like what I'm seeing out of the Cardinals. I do hope Kyler Murray comes back, and obviously that'll help the team. Number 2 for me is the Dallas Cowboys.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah, I mean, they're an offensive machine. They're like Kansas City from 2 years ago, in my mind. So with a halfway decent defense too to support it, but only 2 losses right now. This will be a big game this week, playing in Kansas City. If they win that game, they definitely are solidified in that 2 spot.
Well, we'll talk about that momentarily.
We will. And then that leaves our number 1 team overall. I'm sure a lot of you already probably can guess who I'm going to say, but it's the Green Bay Packers.
Interesting. So no Tampa Bay in that at all. Okay.
I didn't put Tampa Bay in. I didn't put Tennessee in.
Yeah. All right.
And I didn't put Kansas City in. I didn't put New England in. But yeah, Tampa Bay, those were all my Tampa Bay, New England, and Tennessee, and even Kansas City are kind of right there. Those would be my 6, 7, 8, 9. And they could break the top 10 on top 5, depending on what they do this weekend.
All right, man. All right, let's go the other way. Let's go to the basement, the Z list. I'm going to start with number 5. It's a tie, PB. It's none other than your Dolphins and the Jets. And by the way, that tie gets broken this week in the toilet bowl too, because they play this weekend. Dolphins go to New York and play the Jets. We'll see what happens.
Hey, what about the Dolphins beating the Ravens, though?
Doesn't matter. They're still number 5 in my list. They still suck. All right, number 4, the Giants. You know why? Because they're from New York. I hate New York. They're number 4. Number 3, Jaguars. Urban Meyer. Do I have to say more? Urban, you were a great college coach, but guess what? You can't be in college bars anymore with little girls humping your leg. Come on now. Number 2. This is pretty easy. It's the Texans. And by the way, I believe the Texans are worse than the other team, but the other team has no wins. The Texans at least have 1. Number 1 is the Detroit Lions. Sorry, Dan Campbell. Stop crying in your interviews, will you please? They're the worst team in the NFL right now.
All right, that's a good list. But I don't like that you put a tie at 5. That's you gave us 6
this weekend. The winner of that game gets off the list.
All right, fair enough.
All right, let's go to our picks. Pick 6. Last week you had a good week. You squeaked out a 4 and 2. Me and G Money with 3 and 3. By the way, G, I still can't believe G Money this epic picked Carolina to come back and beat. Well, he picked them with the +10. That's what he picked against the Cardinals. So we'll see. All right, let's do our picks. First one I got. Let's talk about that. Washington goes to face Carolina. You just talked about that momentarily. You think it's smoke and mirrors. Yeah. I happen to like Carolina in this case. They have a pretty good defense. Ron Rivera, who coached Cam Newton when he was great, gets to face him one more time. What happens?
Yeah, and I think Carolina does have some momentum coming off of that win last week against the
By the way, Washington had a huge win as well. They beat Tampa Bay.
Washington, right. But Washington, that game was, I think, more of an anomaly. And I think Washington losing Chase Young is huge.
Huge, yes.
Chase Young could probably change Cam Newton's game single-handedly, because he could stop him from passing and he could stop him from running by containing him and coming around the edge. So based on that, I don't think Cam Newton comes close to what he did last week. I don't think he would have been able to come close to what he did last week with Chase in there. The fact that he's not in there leans me towards Carolina on this one, so I am going to take the Panthers.
All right. I as well. G Money as Washington. All right, let's go to the next game. Baltimore, we just talked about them momentarily. You mentioned them losing the Dolphins on Thursday night a week ago. They go to Chicago. Lamar faces the next Lamar potentially in Justin Fields. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm not sold on Baltimore. Their defense.
I know.
I've never been sold on Baltimore. Never been sold on Lamar. I don't think their defense is that good. David Montgomery is back. He's a beast. He's going to get the touches he needs. Fields is starting to come into his own. Mooney is stepping up at wide receiver. He has to, based on how A-Rob's been playing. And I think this team has enough to control the clock, to frustrate Baltimore, to run the ball effectively. And I'm going to take Chicago in this game.
Nice. All right. Good for you. I'm taking Baltimore because I live and die by Lamar. All right. G-Money as well is going with Baltimore.
Okay. All right.
Cincinnati coming off a bye. They faced Vegas, who got absolutely hammered by KC and probably put KC back into their winning streak mode. We'll see. What do you think? Both of them rebounded strong, need a big rebound, I should say, strongly. Who do you like here?
Yeah, and I really think, Vegas is another Baltimore to me. They're just like a fake team. I don't think they have what it takes to even be in the playoffs. I think Cincinnati does. I like their offensive weapons. That trio of Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, and Joe Mixon. That's a great trio. I mean, that's and their defense is reasonable.
Yeah.
I like Cincinnati. I like actually Cincinnati big in this game.
Ooh, okay. G-Money does as well. You know what? For some reason, I happen to be a fan of Derek Carr. I think he's got a lot of gonads. I think he pulls this game out. So we'll see. I got Vegas. All right. Cardinals go to Seattle. This is an interesting game. Kyler Murray is on the fence about playing. We'll see what happens there. We saw what happened when he didn't play last week against Carolina. Seattle needs to pull this one out because they're down deep in the basement at this point in time of what is a great division, right? The NL West, NFC West, I'm sorry. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Arizona's the better team, but this certainly could be a trap. It's a divisional game. It's on the road. Normally, I would probably go with Seattle on this. Murray playing or not playing does factor into my decision. I mean, if he goes, I'll give the edge to Arizona. If he doesn't go, I'm going to give the edge to Seattle on this one. So not knowing that status right this minute, I think he will be back. So I'm going to take I got to pick someone, right? So I'm going to just pick the Cardinals.
All right. I got Seattle. I think Russ doesn't lose a second game in a row. Now he's back. So we'll see. All right.
And G-Money has Seattle too, right?
He does. Yes.
Okay.
Green Bay goes to Minnesota. Your NFC North team versus my NFC North team prediction. What do you think?
Yeah, this is an interesting one.
By the way, A-Rod supposedly has been hurt for the last 2 days with a stubbed toe or something, I guess.
Yeah, I think Green Bay, I just picked them as the top team in the league. But you told us about Minnesota. I've been high on Minnesota. I've been picking Minnesota pretty much on a regular basis. And the games they have lost have been to good teams and they've been really close. They're not far off from where they need to be. And they are fighting and clawing for that playoff spot. This is in Minnesota. This is a statement game for them. I'm going to take the Vikings.
Ooh, I'd be tempted, but Minnesota burned me so bad last year when I picked them to win the division. I'm going Green Bay to the spite. All right. The last game we'll pick, the Cowboys go to KC. What do you think happens? KC with a big comeback last week to beat Oakland, Las Vegas, I should say, very handily. Yeah. Cowboys hammered Atlanta. What's going to happen here?
Yeah, I know. These are two teams that are just, Dallas obviously my third best team right now, I think, in the NFL. But they are going on the road. Kansas City is showing signs of life. I don't know if they're going to be a seesaw team the rest of the year and go up and down, up and down. I think they found their stride and they can continue this play. It is going to be a shootout. I think this game's going to be an absolute shootout. And in the end, I'm just going to give that slight edge to the home team. So I'm going to take the Chiefs in this one. Wouldn't be surprised if they dropped the game to the Cowboys, but I'm on the record, I'm taking the Chiefs.
I want to lean to the Chiefs. I agree with everything you just said, but I think Micah Parsons has 4 sacks, and this game goes under. I think it's like 45, if I'm not mistaken. It goes under, and the Cowboys win in a defensive game.
All right. Is Micah Parsons the defensive rookie of the year this year?
He has to be right now.
Yeah, he has to be. I agree.
All right, PB. Nice episode of PB&Z Sports Chaos. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, go Pats. Go Mac.
Go Mac.